we will do it. It's a project that's very easy to make and finishes quickly, also very useful for homes.
I made this bag holder using a yarn with wool content. I used a thick yarn. If you want, you can make it using many types of yarns like cotton yarns, paper yarns, raffia yarns. The only thing you need to pay attention to is that the yarn can be cleaned and washed. Other than that, you can easily make this project with any type of yarn in any thickness or variety. It turned out to be a very easy, quick, and enjoyable project.
I hope you enjoy it too. Let's move on to our detailed tutorial. "25% wool, a yarn that is 100 grams per 100 meters. The crochet hook size I am using is not clearly visible on camera, but it is 4.0 millimeters. As we start our tutorial, we begin with 40 chains. We start by making 40 chains. I create a loop with my crochet hook, pull a stitch through it and secure it, then slightly looser than the setting I usually crochet. Without loosening too much or tightening too much, I prepare my chain slightly looser than my usual tension. Let's prepare a total of 40 chains and come back. I pulled 40 chains and came. I have a total of 40 chains right now. I am turning the back part of my chains. And I am adjusting my chains, and I will join them this way using the slip stitch method into the first chain I made by inserting into the first chain at the beginning. I make one slip stitch at this point. Then I pull up to the next row by making 3 chains. We will consider the 3 chains as one double crochet throughout our entire work. I pulled my 3 chains. I pull a transition chain in between. There are 4 chains in total. To avoid confusion, you can place a stitch marker on the 3rd chain. Then, what we will do in order is, after making a chain in between, skip 1 chain and into the next chain. Make 1 double crochet. Pull a chain in between. Skip 1 chain again. Make a double crochet into the next chain. We will proceed in this way until the end of the row. In between, I skip 1 chain in the row below and make 1 double crochet in the next one. I chain 1 again. In the row below, I skip 1 chain and make a double crochet in the next one. Let's continue to the end of the row by skipping 1 chain and making 1 double crochet in the next, pulling 1 chain at the top in between, skipping another chain and making a double crochet in the next until we reach the starting point where we pulled 3 chains. I reached the end of my turn by proceeding as I mentioned. Finally, I pulled 1 chain, skip 1 chain and into the next chain. I made a 1 double crochet and pulled a chain again. I made a slip stitch into the top of the 3 chains I pulled at the beginning. I completed my first row this way. Now we move on to the second row. We go up with 3 chains. And we make one more chain. We have a total of 4 chains. We consider 3 chains as one double crochet. We consider the 4th chain as the chain we made in between. There, we made our first double crochet because the 3 chain is at the top of the slip stitch point. Now we insert into the 1 chain space. And here we make 1 double crochet. Then we chain 1. And here, by inserting into the top of the first double crochet, we make 1 double crochet at this point. Since this row will be an increase row, we make 1 double crochet in both the chain spaces and the tops of the double crochets. We don't forget to chain 1 each time in between. Again, a chain space greets me. Our fizna etsi Paris. I come to a 1 chain space and make 1 double crochet. Then I chain 1 again and make 1 double crochet at the top of the crochet. I chain 1 again and come to a 1 chain space and make 1 double crochet at this point. We will continue this way until the end of the row. Let's reach the end of the row by making double crochets in both the chain spaces and the top of the double crochets. Don't forget to chain 1 in between. There is always a chain in the transitions. We don't forget this. Let's continue to the end of the row and move on to our next row. We completed our entire row and arrived here. Finally, I have 1 chain space left. For this, I make 1 chain, and in my last space, I make 1 double crochet. And the 3 chains I pulled at the beginning, including the chain in between, a total of 4, I joined this point with a slip stitch by inserting into the 3rd one. Now, if we repeat from the beginning as a general recap of what we did, we started by making 40 chains. We joined our last chain with the first chain using a slip stitch. We went up with 3 chains. We made a transition chain in between. Then we skipped 1 chain and made a double crochet into the next one. We made 1 chain. We skipped 1 chain and did a double crochet into the next one. We proceeded this way until the end of the row. When we reached the starting point, we completed our row by slip stitching into the 3rd chain. Then we went up again with this same process. 3 chains plus 1 transition chain, a total of 4 chains. This point is our increased row for the second row. That's why we made a double crochet in both the chain spaces and on top of the double crochets. Each time we made 1 chain in between. There is 1 chain between each. After completing this entire row by inserting into the chain spaces and on top of the double crochets, after completing, we did our slip stitch here. We joined our row by inserting into the 3rd chain and are moving up to the next row. We pull 3 chains. This is our double crochet and we pull a transition chain. From this point onward, we will continue our knitting by only inserting into the top of the double crochets. The only thing we need to do is make 1 double crochet into each top of the double crochets. Chain 1 in between, insert into the next top of the double crochet. I make 1 double crochet in between, 1 chain into the next crochet top. I am making 1 double crochet. So, to put it simply, I had already considered my 3 chains as a double crochet. I made my double crochet at the starting point. I made 1 chain in between. This is my 4th chain. Then in the second row, I see here I will make one double crochet on top of each crochet by inserting into the top of all the crochets. Don't forget to chain one in between. Generally, it's like this. The following rows will continue in the same way. We will see it all together. Only the beginning part and the second row part were important. The second row was our increase part. From this point on, we will continue straight. I make a chain, I insert into the top of the double crochet and make a double crochet. Again, I make a chain in between. I insert into the top of the double crochet and make a double crochet. One chain. Double crochet on top of the crochet. One chain.
Inserting into the top of the double crochet.
I crochet a double crochet, one chain. I insert into the top of the crochet and make a double crochet. Let's continue this way until the end of the row and complete our row.
I've reached the end of my row. Finally, there's one railing top left. I chain one in between.
I crochet a double crochet into my last trellis top. At this point, pull one chain and slip stitch into the third chain to join my row at this point.
And I move up to the next row.
See what? 6 chains represent my first double crochet, and I start my new row by pulling the chain I made in between. This point is the same again. I insert into the tops of the crochets. I crocheted one double crochet. I made one chain in between. By inserting into the next crochet top, I crocheted another double crochet at this point. I made another chain in between, and from this point on, we are no longer increasing or decreasing. We continue by making one double crochet on top of each crochet and pulling one chain in between. If I need to show it again, I pull the chain in between. I insert into the top of the post and make a double crochet. I chain one in between. I insert into the top of the post and make a double crochet. Chain one in between, insert into the top of the post and make another double crochet. Like this. I make a chain in between, insert into the top of the next double crochet, and again crochet one double crochet, a chain in between, insert into the top of the next double crochet, and crochet a double crochet. In this way, we only crochet straight by inserting into the tops of the posts, except for the first row and the increase row.
We will knit a total of 24 rows in a straight manner, not counting the first 2 rows.
We will knit until there are a total of 24 rows. Prepare it, and then how to do the decreasing part.
We will see that too. One chain.
One double crochet on top of the post. One chain, one on top of the post.
Double crochet.
Let's repeat this process until the end of the row and see how we started again when we reach the end of our row. From now on, it will proceed in exactly the same way. To make it fit more comfortably, let's knit a few more rows together and then
Let's continue until we complete 24 rows.
We completed our entire row.
I pull a chain and insert into the first, second, third of the 4 chains I pulled at the beginning. I join with the slip stitch and finish this row. Let's see how we do the next row. Again, 3 chains are double crochet and we puzzle 1 chain and a between, then inserting into the top of our crochet. We crochet 1 double crochet at this point and 1 chain.
We insert into the top of our double crochet.
We insert into the top of our double crochet and make a double crochet, a chain in between, double crochet into the top of the next double crochet. This is circus of the... As I mentioned, all the following rows will proceed in this way. There is no long ätna increase to decrease points until the end of the row. The part we knit straight like this. We will continue until there are a total of 24 rows. Let's see. Now, there are these waves, but as we gradually enlarge our knitting, you will see that it becomes more convex. As I mentioned, I'm not counting the first 2 rows. After the first 2 rows, we knitted a total of 1, 2, 3 rows. We will complete these 3 rows to 24 rows. There will be a total of 24 rows. So I need to knit 21 more rows after these 3 rows. Let's complete this. Let's go to the end of the row, because after this row, there is no difference. We pay attention to the first 2 rows you see. The following row is our pattern setup row, and after that it continues in exactly the same way. Let's knit all our rows for 24 rows and complete our rows and come back. I have completed half of my knitting. The ball of yarn I used in this part finished. As you can see, a very short piece of yarn is left. I wanted to share with you how I changed the yarn, both to show how to change it and because I will continue with a different yarn. First of all, in total here, I knitted 12 rows, excluding my starting row and increase row. If I include my starting and increase rows, it's 14 rows. Now, first of all, I have reached the end of my knitting. I also pulled 1 chain. And here I insert into the 3rd chain of the 4 chains I made. I no longer need this yarn here. I am switching to my other yarn. My other yarn has the same features, only the color is different. I am taking my other yarn, leaving a portion of yarn. I wrap it around my hook. I pass it through the 3 chains, then I pass it here and make a slip stitch. And with my new yarn, I chain 4. I'm moving up to the upper row. My 3 chains are a double crochet and the 4th chain is a transition chain. Then, in the same way, by inserting into the top of my double crochets, I crochet a double crochet, I chain 1, I crochet another double crochet into the next stitch. With chain, I make another double crochet by inserting into the next crochet hook. I change the yarn this way, then these yarns. I tightly tie the 2 together at this point
to prevent unraveling.
In the ish, and I cut the excess by hiding it between my stitches. That was my yarn change. After this, in total, I will knit 12 more rows with my white yarn and then we will move on to the decreasing part. We will now be in the final finishing stage. Let me knit my 12 rows with white yarn and let's see the decrease and finishing stages together. We do not count the first 2 points at the beginning. Our first 2 rows are our starting row and increase row. Then we knitted a total of 24 rows, and now we will move on to the decrease part.
Sometimes I pull a chain again.
I skip the next railing. I don't knit it, I leave it empty. On the next one, 1 stitch.
I make my double crochet. Again, a chain in between.
We skip the next double crochet and make a 1 double crochet in the following one. We will continue this decreasing process in the same way until the end of the row. Skip the next double crochet and make a double crochet in the following one. Skip the next double crochet and make a double crochet in the following one.
Let's complete our row and come.
We have completed our decrease row.
As I mentioned, we skip 1 railing and go into the next one each time.
I have also crocheted my last post.
I pulled my chain occasionally, and here, coming to the first, second, third chain, I make a slip stitch and join. From this point on, we will make the tip part. For the tip part, we need an elastic at this point. It can be any elastic. It could be a hair tie you don't use. I will use a hair tie I don't use to make the elastic part. To make the elastic part, we start with a chain. Then, as I mentioned, it can be a hair tie you don't use. Any elastic will do. We place our elastic at the opening part of our knitting and into each chain space. Insert once to secure this elastic with single crochet.
We secure it to the opening part of our crochet.
My elastic is also on my hook, making a single crochet into each chain space like this.
My elastic.
I secure it to this part until the end of the row.
I make a single crochet in each chain space. Let me show you like this. Since our elastic is tight here, there will be some tension. This is normal. We pull it along to the end of the row. We crochet a single crochet into each chain space, including our elastic, until the end of the row. Let's finish the entire row, knitting while concealing the elastic inside and then come back. I made single crochets around my entire knitting with the elastic. I reached the point where I covered all the chain spaces. At this part, you can use an elastic in the same color as your yarn. Or it could be a hair tie in a different color. Any elastic that is one that will tighten this opening and prevent the bags from falling out, while also allowing our hand to fit through. I had black at home, so I used black. If you don't want it to be noticeable, as I said, you can choose an elastic in the same color as the bag holder you knitted. I finished crocheting my entire row and I make a slip stitch into the first single crochet next to the chain you see here. Then I chain one. And here I will cut my yarn. I will hide my yarn between the stitches. Then let's move on to how I made the handle part. We also made the bottom part of our bag, as I mentioned. Here we used elastic wide enough to fit our hand in to create this width, also to prevent our bags from falling. Now we are moving on to making the handle part. At this point, as I mentioned, I switched to white yarn because I ran out of pink yarn. For making the handle part, I will use white yarn again. I will use the white yarn we see here. If you are using a single color and have enough yarn, you can continue with the same color, or you can use different yarns. I am continuing with white yarn because that's what I have left.
First of all,
I took my yarn and made a loop. Then we have our yarn left. From the initial chain here, we will weave it in by hiding it in between from any chain space. We can start, no problem at all. I insert into any chain space and secure my yarn here with a single crochet. I make another single crochet in the same space. So I made 2 single crochets in a 1 chain space. I move to the next one. I also make 2 single crochets at this point. To the next one, again my 2 single crochets. We continue to the end of the row by making 2 single crochets in each chain space like this. Then we will move on to making the handle after filling all the gaps. I crochet 2 single crochets into each chain space of my chains. Let's continue to the end of the row. Let's finish this row and also show the handle making. I crochet 2 single crochets into each chain space and reach the end of my row. Into my last chain space too. I crochet 2 single crochets, then I join it to my first single crochet with a slip stitch, and now at this point we are making chains for the handle. You can prepare the handle by making chains as long or as short as you want. This length is enough for me. Let's see how many chains we made in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Let's make one more and complete it to 15. I made 15 chains. I have a total of 15 chains. Here we see our single crochets. I skip the first 4 single crochets here and join to the 5th with the slip stitch for my handle part. Then I turn my work like this. And I make one chain here after turning my work. Now, to reinforce this handle, we do not insert into the chains. We do not insert into the chains. We do not insert into the front or back part. We directly insert into the chain and crochet a single crochet.
We insert into the chain and crochet a single crochet.
This process along the chain. We will continue. At this point, it is better to crochet our single crochets a bit loosely rather than too tightly, because the more we crochet and the more we close this part, the better it will be for both its strength and durability.
In this way,
I crochet single stitches around my chains. At the same time, I push these single stitches with my hand so they are close to each other and stay tight. This also increases durability.
it provides us with a longer usage time.
I press my single crochets again with my hand and continue. At this point, if you crochet your single crochets too tightly, you cannot push them with your hand, so you cannot squeeze them together like this. This will cause trouble for you. Therefore, keep the stitches as loose as possible so you can move them easily.
There's no specific number of single crochets here.
We continue crocheting single crochets until the chain is completely filled, however many single crochets it takes to fill around the entire chain. There is no specific number. If you made the handle longer, you will have more single crochets. If you made it shorter, fewer single crochets will suffice around the handle. That's why I'm not giving a number here.
Fill it as much as you can so that the chains are not visible in between. This way, only the single crochets are visible. The chain should not be visible at the back.
At the final point, I crochet a lot so that
My chain should not be visible here.
The final form is like this. We went around the entire chain with single crochet. We filled it completely.
Now, what we see here,
Let me show you up close. It will be easier. I insert into the top of the first single crochet we see here. I make a slip stitch. I secure it with the chain, and at this point I will cut my yarn and tightly hide the remaining threads between the stitches like this, cutting off the excess, and we will have a bag holder ready for use. I hope you enjoyed it and the video was informative. I hope my explanation is clear.
it's very easy to knit, a pattern that finishes quickly.
As I mentioned, you don't necessarily need to use any elastic or a hair tie like I used for the elastic part. You can use anything that will function as elastic. As I said, if you want it to be the same color so it doesn't show, I only had a black hair tie on hand, so I used that. If you want it to be the same color, you can choose the same colors. It's entirely up to you. Hope to see you in our next tutorial. Happy knitting!